The 2025 NFL schedule is out. There's quirks. There's inequities in the schedule. There's a ton of primetime games. Some teams have them. Some teams don't. Is it stacked against the champs? All that and more coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson, as always, at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Thank you so much, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love hanging out with the everydayers. A lot of the everydayers even aren't subscribed, which is interesting to me, Matt. I think that would be a great time for you folks to pause, hit subscribe on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast, and helps us out tremendously. And it hits the algo so other folks can find the show as well and hang out with us, just like you, every day, breaking down the entire NFL. We're talking schedule on today's program. Welcome to the new listeners as well, to Peacock and Williamson. Hey, Matt, what's the first thing you do? Schedule comes out. What are you looking for? Because I know on a team-by-team basis, you're like,
right,
okay, where's the road trips? Where's the bye week, right? Mm-hmm. But league-wide, what are you really looking at?
So I'm going to start with the part you didn't ask me is, so my tradition, and I'm sure is yours, is really hitting the Niners and the Steelers. And I think most of our listeners really focus on their team for sure. And to pull back the curtain, I kind of said to you before we hit record, and I'll do the same thing next year, and I probably said the same thing last year, that this is kind of a hard show to do from a national perspective. You know what I mean? But it's a really fun show to do when you single in on one team, you know. So my process is 8 p.m. on WDVE, which is like the biggest radio station here. We have a schedule release show every year. There's 3 of us, so we're all good buds. And frankly, they leak us a schedule a little early, but not super early. So I'm kind of like, boom, this is hot off the press. I'm reacting to it live, and everyone's listening, reacting to it live. And when do I, schedule my trips to all the road games? And in this particular year, the Steelers are playing in Dublin. We knew that game, but we didn't know their bye. So it's really fun to do it for about 24 hours or 48 hours for one team. But for the league, it's a lot more difficult. I try to look for, like, who's getting screwed, who's got 3-game road trips, who a big thing I always look at immediately is who has to go to Denver early. And luckily, Tennessee goes there week 1, but then the Broncos don't have another home game till week 4. And by then, usually the teams are in football shape because the altitude's awful. I also look at Miami. I mean, if you have to go to Miami that first week or so, or first couple of weeks, you almost always lose. Well, Miami's on the road in week 1, and then they host the Patriots. So it's not so terrible.
Warm weather early in the season, bad weather cities late in the season, right? I think those are big ones to look at. But what I'm hearing from you, Matt, is that you're gearing up and looking at Airbnbs in Dublin. Is that what I'm hearing?
Hopefully so. Well, I'm not planning on paying for anything. If I go, I'm not paying a cent. I'm going on the team jet. And side note, I didn't know this, but teams are in charge of their own travel in the NFL. Like some teams have their own jet, other ones lease a jet or whatever, and everyone gets, the police escorts to and from. It's not bad. But when you go overseas, the league pays for it. So it's like the biggest airliner on the planet. Like everybody fits in it. Like, so
yeah, the one
I'm hoping there's room for me,
where there's 3 rows of seats where you get the
right.
Flights.
Like when you go to Hawaii and stuff, right? Yeah, this giant airliner,
Well, I hope you get a chance to go to Dublin and find
looking
at least,
good.
You might spend some of your own money at the pubs over there, maybe.
But I think we're doing shows from there, and I would expect them to hand us a Guinness or 2, while we're on the air, right?
Wow, that would be a trip. You don't pay a dime, not even at the pub. And you get
that would be awesome.
And I've heard the Guinness does hit a lot different.
I've heard, right? So I knew that part, but now I know the rest of the Steelers schedule. I don't travel with the team, but the people I'm close with and the guys I was on the radio with, well, it really affects their life too. Like I got to make my road trips. I got to figure out when I'll be home. How do I write my story? How do I do my podcast? Blah, 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 blah. And this was the first time in a while. The first thing I sent my wife before I went on the air is Steelers aren't on Thanksgiving or Halloween or Christmas. And that helps the chances of me staying married.
Well, that's a great segue to teams that are Thanksgiving and Christmas, right? And some fans are upset thinking that the Kansas City Chiefs getting too good a treatment and are in prime time too much. And they're in prime time quite a lot. Like the league is, the league wants the Kansas City Chiefs in the spotlight, clearly,
which I'm sure they would be no matter what. They go to the Super Bowl basically every year. They've got the best quarterback in recent memory, Andy Reid, Spags, Kelsey, and Chris Jones. They're very marketable, obviously.
Not as marketable as one pop star.
Taylor Swift's the most popular human being on the planet, most recognizable human being on the planet. I think that has a ton to do with her. I mean, they are first team in NFL history to have 5 primetime games in their first 8 weeks. And the first one's in Brazil against the Chargers. And then they also play Thanksgiving and Christmas. For the second year in a row, they're playing Christmas. Like, you could say that's preferential treatment, but it's really difficult on these teams. If you play Monday night on the road, no matter what area of the country you live in or you come from, you get home at like 6 a.m. And I mean, night games on the road in particular really take a lot out of you, and you basically almost lose a practice day for the week coming up for Sunday night and Monday night games. So it's challenging.
We are already, and ownership, the Maras basically put Brian Daboll, Joe Shane on blast for the New York Giants, and he said it's going to be unacceptable. So they're already on the warm seat, the hot seat going into the season. And the New York Giants traded up for a rookie quarterback. Now, will it be the rookie quarterback that plays? Will it be one of the veteran quarterbacks that play early in the season? Will they give, one of those veteran quarterbacks just enough rope to, lose the job after the early season? But will the coaching staff have already lost their job by the time that Jackson Dart gets a chance to start his NFL career? Because the New York Giants have a rough schedule to start the season for a coaching staff and a regime that is already coming into the season on a hot seat and might be forced to play either a subpar veteran or a rookie quarterback. And in the first 7 weeks of the season, the New York Giants will face 5 top 7 defenses from last year and just have a really rough stretch before they hit their bye week. And so it's definitely going to be one of the early season watches. The New York Giants need to come out hot. They need to be good, and they've got some division opponents right away. And they go on the road week 1 and 2 at the Washington Commanders, at the Dallas Cowboys. They have a Sunday nighter against the Kansas City Chiefs in week 3. Then they are home against the Los Angeles Chargers. They do get a reprieve in week 5 at the New Orleans Saints, who are going to be starting not Derek Carr. It's going to be Shuck or Spencer Rattler. And so, I do think the Giants, that is one team that they are better than on paper going into the year, is the New Orleans Saints. And then in week 6, you got the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a Thursday nighter.
Short week, right?
After a trip on the road, going back from New Orleans to New York to play that one. And then they're at Denver, at Philly. So we're going to week 8 there. And then you got the San Francisco 49ers in week 9. And they don't have a bye until late in the season, the Giants, until week 14. And they're on the road at the Detroit Lions. They're home against Green Bay. The Chicago Bears could be better there in week 10. And 12 weeks of the season. I don't know how they possibly could think that they're going to have a good record through 12 weeks of this season, or let alone the first 7 weeks. Yeah,
and they have the latest bye of anyone too. They don't get a time off until week 14, so it's not like. But a lot of people will look at the schedule and be like, "Well, when's Jackson Dart getting in there? Well, when's the bye week? Give them 2 weeks to prep. Well, all the way to week 14. Yuck, And buys are falling between week 5 and 14 this year. And something we already knew, and I always give Warren Sharp credit for this, is based off of projected win totals, which I think is the best way of doing strength of schedule. the Giants already had the hardest schedule in the league, just knowing the teams they were playing, not knowing when.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland's 31st, but it's a big gap. And you're probably aware of this, but your Niners are number one, followed by the Patriots and Saints for the easiest schedules. Your Niners have it pretty nice.
Yeah. Let's talk Niners next. So from the schedule with the New York Giants, we got a hot seat watch all ready to start the season. Run to FanDuel to get those first coach fired bets in, because clearly that is the favorite, Brian Dable and the New York Giants, and it's an unfortunate situation for them. And who knows, did they draft a quarterback for the next regime when they moved up in the NFL draft? Let's talk easiest schedule, some other inequities around the NFL in the 2025 NFL schedule next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Yeah, there's weekly lines already up for the NFL. Go bet on your team to win the Super Bowl. If you like how that schedule looks, go bet on whatever week you want. Tons of prop bets and season-long futures at FanDuel. But the NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers. We're talking highlight-worthy performances, can't-miss moments, game-winning shots, breakout players, and there's never been a better time to get in on the action, because FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off, live same-game parlays, and how about an extra $200 in bonus bets to add to the excitement if your first $5 bet hits? And, man, if you got a read on who's heating up mid-game, why not back it up with the same-game parlay? And those extra $200, yeah. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up, because if you head to FanDuel.com right now or download the app and place your first $5 bet, if that first $5 bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. So the San Francisco 49ers on the opposite end of things. I mean, I've never seen a more sweetheart schedule than the San Francisco 49ers schedule. They have the easiest strength of schedule based on last year, and we know things can change year to year. But then you look at the teams they're playing. So they're playing that last place schedule. The Niners were, a 6-win team last year. So they get the last place schedule. They are not playing a difficult out of conference division. And so what they have is a whole bunch of first year starters, quarterbacks that teams are crossing their fingers will make a big jump. They've got first time head coaches. And when you look at the 49ers schedule, their most difficult games are still like the Atlanta Falcons and the Chicago Bears. And those are projections to even be those teams that might take a step, and they might take a leap. And the 49ers might not have the easiest schedule when it's all said and done. But man, you've got the Panthers, you got the Tennessee Titans with a rookie quarterback. And it's just a schedule that, you got to handle your business in the NFC West, and there's a path to win the division very easily for the 49ers in that case. And so, maybe the Houston Texans is the
I'm looking
toughest
at this. This is crazy.
schedule, but a lot of projection for even the tougher games for the 49ers schedule. They do have a sweetheart schedule. A lot of road games early, but as long as they can get through that, they're another team with the Week 14 bye, by the way. So you got to get through that early stretch on the road. If their head's above water, they'll look really good after that bye and heading for a late season playoff run.
So another thing I look for heavily, and of course I focused on the Steelers, is that first month or so, how many first-time head coaches, first-time quarterbacks are out there? Because I think they might be swimming a little bit. This might be a little bigger than I thought. I'm not settled in. Or teams that have a lot of O-line change. Like the Steelers' first 4 teams, all 4 of them drafted an offensive lineman in the first round. Weird things like that. But look at the Niners. At Seattle, he's a second-year head coach, but new quarterback, new offensive coordinator. New Orleans is all new across the board. Jacksonville in round 4. So not only the teams look favorable, but the times you get them, and
I think obviously probably fighting against the weather of like a summer New Orleans game in the daytime more than you're going to be worried about the roster that the New Orleans Saints have put together this year and whoever Shucker or Rattler is starting for them in week 2.
Second career start with a new coach. And, Yeah. So I urge fans to check out that first month too. Who are teams that are going through a lot of change that are on your schedule? I think that's in a little bit easier game too.
Do you think the Philadelphia Eagles got a raw deal as the defending champs? And look, this is what happens, and the league loves parity. So we just talked about it. Like the New York Giants are in an unfortunate situation because they're a bad team and they have a tough schedule. But you're supposed to have, like the Niners have, you're bad one year, you get a high pick in the draft. Hopefully that means you get better players on your roster and you have an easier schedule because you're playing the other bad teams and you have a better record the following year, right? Parity. That's what the league wants. They want the bottom teams to come up and the top teams to have a tougher go. And so when you're playing a first place schedule, you're going to play more difficult teams. The Philadelphia Eagles, though, are playing 11 games, I believe it is, against playoff teams. And Eagles fans aren't happy about it. They think that they got the raw deal here, and they're seeing the Kansas City Chiefs with all these primetime games, and they're like, man, they're getting good treatment, and we got the toughest schedule now with the Philadelphia Eagles. They start primetime in Dallas week 1, and we already know about that one. That's
the opener. Yeah.
Opener. Then you go straight to Kansas City in week 2. Got the Rams, got the Buccaneers, got the Denver Broncos. The Minnesota Vikings are in there, although they're going to have a first-time starter at quarterback. You do have the New York Giants mixed in there as well. Then a bye week middle of the season, so that's okay. But then tough again. You go at Green Bay, Detroit, at Dallas, Chicago. Are they a lot better this year, especially late in the season? I would expect them to be better than early in the season. Potentially a superstar quarterback with a superstar offensive mind with him there in Chicago. You got at the Chargers, then you got at Washington, at Buffalo, home against Washington to finish the season. That's not an easy schedule. So they have their work cut out for them if they want to repeat.
It's absolutely a brutal schedule. Now, back to the sharp strength of schedule, it's the 4th most difficult in terms of just who you play. Now, the thing is, it's just the formula. I mean, they happen to play in a good division. They're a first-place team. The AFC games that they're getting are Buffalo and the Chiefs. I mean, like, that's the schedule makers didn't do anything to them. It's just how the formula works. There's no, they didn't get screwed. It's just a bad year to be playing those divisions or to come in first or whatever. Plus, their division's hard. But I will say the nice advantage is at the beginning of the year is I always feel for the road team on opening night. I mean, you're walking into a buzzsaw, especially in a town like Philly, is going to be so crazy, and ring ceremonies, and the whole world's watching. It's the first game of the year. How much preseason action did Dallas get walking into Philly for a Thursday night game? And why I brought that up is at least, I mean, we knew this a week ago that Philly is going to go to Kansas City. Well, at least you have 10 days to prepare for that one in week 2, after the Thursday game. So the first 2 games, I mean, the teams on the schedule are awful. I mean, it's really, really hard. But it's not like the league did anything to Philly. It's just the formula. But at least those first 2 are pretty favorable in terms of how they set up.
I did see this from Warren Sharp talking about just the end of the season, week 12 to 18. Your Pittsburgh Steelers, the most difficult schedule in the league to end the year.
That's 2 years in a row. Yeah. There's a lot of those teams, including the Steelers, had to play 3 games in 11 days. And the Steelers, that was against both Super Bowl teams and the Ravens. And they were 0-3 and got crushed. So there are some teams, and the Steelers are one of them, where the beginning of the schedule is way more favorable than the end. But I did want to mention one thing at Philly, too. At Buffalo, week 17, last week of December. That's not a treat at all. That could have fallen at a better time.
Yeah, we just talked about that. Late season, cold weather, could be snow games, and early season, summer weather, some of those southern states in hot weather. That can be a brutal one there. Wait, where did they start? So they got the opener against the Dallas Cowboys at KC. They're like home Rams, so they don't have to go to LA in September because that could be a hot one too. So the early season weather is not going to be bad for Philly, but late season, yeah.
The late season stuff doesn't bother me as much, at least when I sit here in May. I mean, sometimes it changes when, there's 8 feet of snow in Buffalo. Yeah. I just don't know that it favors the home team as much as heat favors the home team early when teams aren't in quite shape yet,
Or the thin air in Denver.
That too. I mean, just the stamina advantage.
Absolutely. I want to talk international games a little bit more next, and some more quirks and inequities in the 2025 NFL schedule. What was the date of the Steelers in Dublin?
It is week 4. That is September 28th.
September 28th, week 4. So an early game there the thing I'm looking at didn't have their
9:30 Eastern. Yeah.
Who are they playing in Dublin?
Vikings. And strangely, the Vikings stay and go to London then. So it's the first time any team plays back-to-back games overseas, but in different cities. You know, like the Jags did London, almost like the home field. But the Vikings, much like as history shows, they come from the north and they start raping and pillaging and going town to town and taking things over. So yeah, the Vikings week 4 are in Dublin against the Steelers. That's considered a Steeler home game. And then week 5, they're in London against the Browns, which is also considered a Browns home game, because all the overseas, all the weird games are AFC home games, because this is the year AFC has 9 home games and don't have 8. So that kind of works out a little bit. You know?
Oh, okay. Well, that's not bad then. If none of those are home games, you have your full complement of home games, and games are away. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, again, the Jaguars of London, trying to build that London fan base. I wonder what that's like there. I would love to hear from some listeners, if you live in London, if you're in the area, if the Jaguars have been able to build a little bit of a fan base there in London with all these home games, because that could be a huge advantage. And I think it's smart by the Jaguars, because to be honest with you, as one of our listeners put it when I was talking about that and the Niners and the Jaguars game this year, they're basically, well, the Jaguars are having a tough time building a fan base in Jacksonville and in the state of Florida. So, does that mean they're having better luck in London, or is it just
I actually have some insight on that, because of the Steelers Ireland thing. We've had a lot of conversations with the Steelers. Actually employ a radio network in Ireland. I mean, all these teams have different territories, which is hard to explain, but the Steelers are in Mexico City, and Ireland is like considered their town. Mr. Rooney was the ambassador of Ireland. I mean, so like there's some obvious connections. So I've been talking to these Irish folks that kind of do what we do. And I've been on their podcasts and all that type of thing. And I remember I asked them, because they actually showed up at the combine and met them in person. They came to Indy from Ireland just to kind of hang with the NFL folks. And I asked them about, well, is Jacksonville kind of got the leg up in Europe? And they're like, oh, in London for sure. The fan base is starting to embrace them as kind of a home field, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, it's kind of accomplishing its goal,
I mean, global. I mean, you want a global market, absolutely, and it's a huge advantage for the older franchises that have had a lot of success, like Steelers. I'm sure you're big overseas. The 49ers. I have listeners in Locked On 49ers that a lot of Brazilian fans were like bummed because they thought the Niners might come to Brazil this year. We have a lot of listeners in Brazil, Australia, UK. They're fun. Mexico.
It's probably the same for your team, but I'm like, why are the Steelers in Mexico City? They're like, because they were awesome in the 70s.
Yeah, they were just a good.
That's team. The only reason, right?
Maybe one of the teams televised in the 70s,
right?
The
Niners, they were on TV all the. I figured it'd be like Dallas. It's closer. They're like, no, the Steelers were the best team in the 70s, and Mexico kind of came on the football scene around the 70s. And I'm sure the same's true for countries, maybe Brazil with the Niners in the 80s. They were good.
We need next year. We need Peacock and Williamson live from Mexico City Niners Steelers matchup. That's what we need.
I love it. I'm a little worried that week 4, Peacock and Williamson's going to get some odd recording times. and not to mention, if I go to the Dublin game, I'll get on a jet as soon as it's over. So all the games that happen at 1:47, I'll be in the airport. So you might have to carry the show on that Monday. Plus, I'll be a little sleepy. I think
a little sleepy. Maybe hungover. I don't know.
Well, hungover, right?
Because how the game flows. We know Matt doesn't want to have to pay for it himself. Let's see. There are a few more inequities.
I kind of like the inequities. Some of these streaks on homes and roads and things like that too.
Yeah. What do you see that stands out?
So there are 3 teams that have 3-game road trips, and I don't have these numbers in front of me, but 3 in a row games on the road. The Ravens from week 9 to 11, the Titans from week 4 to 6, Patriots from week 5 to 7. And again, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but when you start to really get in extended road trips, the league has shown in history that your winning percentage goes down massively. I mean, everyone has a road trip for one game. Maybe the road team wins, I'm guessing, 45% of road games. But when it's your second one, it goes to like 30. When it's your third one, it goes to like 17%. So 3-game road trip is pretty brutal. And the Ravens, Titans, and Patriots all have to deal with that. But the same is true for a 3 or more game homestand. And there's actually 8 teams that get that luxury. The Ravens happen to be one of them. The Titans also happen to be one of them that have to do 3 the other way. Bills, Bengals, Lions, Texans, Chiefs, Bucks. And what's really weird about the Ravens, and another reference for Warren Sharp, last year, the Ravens, Warren Sharp will do this probably in the next 24 hours. He'll tell you all the rest advantages. The Ravens had the best rest advantage over their opponents last year in NFL history. This year, they have 3 games at home, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or actually, it's 4 games at home, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then they got 3 on the road, 9, 10, 11. Then they got 3 at home, 12, 13, 14. So another strange scheduling quirk for the Baltimore Birdies.
I'm looking at their 3 in a row on the road, because a lot of teams, especially if you're, a West Coast, East Coast team, they like to try to if they're 2 in a row on the road, they like to try to find a place that's somewhere close that they can, hang out for a week and practice, so they don't have to go back and forth coast to coast to coast a bunch of times. You see a lot of teams do that in LA and hold over. I know the 49ers in the past have held over in Ohio, in Youngstown, Ohio. There's a lot of connections with the Niners in Youngstown, or in West Virginia.
The Bartolos are from Youngstown, by the way, which is very close to here. Yeah,
exactly. And so there might be some opportunities for those teams to do that. But, looking at some of these schedules, Buffalo, New Orleans, Tennessee, that would be, close to home for the Patriots, or close to 2 games for the Patriots to kind of hang out somewhere. Nashville area, there's usually some good places to practice and post up for a little while. But, that's something that teams have tried to do sometimes, if they can do it, just to lessen the load. And I think, in the middle of the season, it can be good for teams just to have a little camaraderie and be like, oh, we're going camping for a week together.
Yeah, it's almost like a training camp environment, but a little more lax, but with only 53 of you. And I do think there's some value in that. And then another small inequities that I thought were interesting were 4 teams open with back-to-back home games: Packers, Colts, Saints, Jets. 4 teams open with back-to-back road games: Panthers, Giants, Niners. I guess that's one of the bad things for them. Bucks. But if any of those teams can go 2-0, then you're sitting there going, wow, we got all our home games still in front of us,
Right, exactly. And how difficult are those places to go play, too, is
a
big part of it.
And then there's also the same thing with finishing the season. There's 6 teams with back-to-back home games to finish, which I think is a huge advantage. Falcons, Bills, Bengals, Raiders, Vikings, Niners. And then 6 teams have to go back-to-back road games when you're weary to end the season: Cardinals, Ravens, Cowboys, Lions, Saints, Seahawks. I think that's tough.
And, it's only a 17-game season over 18 weeks. But the difference between what a team is in week 1 and team 18 can be pretty different. And I think it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating. 49ers, Seahawks bookend the season. The Niners season starts at Seattle, and then the Seahawks are at the 49ers in week 18. So week 1, week 18. And we were talking about how, there's a quarterback with a new, second-year coach and a new coordinator there in Seattle, although there's familiarity with Kubiak and Sam Darnold from their time in San Francisco, but now they're, in charge of that Seattle Seahawks offense. So they might not be starting from zero there for the Seahawks offense under Darnold, which is probably one of the big reasons they wanted to bring in Darnold and do that dance with sending they traded to the Raiders, right? Geno Smith to the Raiders, and people treat Geno Smith like he's the Seahawks are insane and they traded away a superstar quarterback. I don't know. Darnold's 7 years younger. You got a 3rd rounder on top of it. I like that move for the Seahawks. I don't know. Maybe that's
I hear you. I mean, I think a change was not a terrible idea. I think Geno's a slightly better player, but along those lines, like last year, it's cool that Seattle and San Fran play 1 and 18. That's great. They're going to be totally different teams. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But I had a problem last year, like the AFC North stuff. And the Steelers were the ones hit the hardest. 6 of their 8, or all 6 of their divisional games were in the last 8 weeks of the season. Like that's bad to me.
That didn't make sense. That's right. Where you get the rough draft of the schedule that the computer spits out, and you're like, well, you got to change that.
Yeah, I mean, at least get a couple. Play the Browns in week 2 or something. I mean, you got to spread it out a little bit. What if your best player's hurt, and then you just lose all your playoff, all your tight games? So that's another thing to look at. That type of thing.
Yeah, and you want to play those young quarterbacks, new coaches, probably early in the season, and before they've had a chance to figure things out and get the ball rolling late in the year too. That's another thing I really look forward with these. Who's starting a lot of rookies. Yeah, those are games that could get rough in the beginning of the season. And of course, there's big time injuries. So who knows what you're talking about? A game that looks tough in week 17 might be easy because a superstar quarterback's hurt, right? Or vice versa. Maybe someone's banged up to come into the year, and then all of a sudden they're healthy and a team's rolling in the back half of the season. And we know how much changes year to year. So take the strength of schedule stuff with a grain of salt, right?
Yeah.
Some of these teams that were bad are going to be good. Some of the teams that were good are going to be bad.
No one thought. Everyone looked at the schedule last year, like, "Oh, we got the Commanders. We'll roll right through them."
Rookie quarterback,
cake. Right? They picked second in the draft. They stink, right? Everyone always does it, but you get the schedule and your favorite team, W L L W W. Yeah. Like you're gonna be wrong.
Especially because you're a fan, you're like, "Oh, we got this one. Yeah, we're
easy.
We're 8-4. Let's go." And then you're sitting there. 6-10. What are we gonna do?
We should be 6-0 going into the bye. But that's not really how it works, right?
Yeah, exactly. Parity. Love it. All right. Let us know what you think about your team schedule at PD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Drop a comment on YouTube. Get your questions in for the next mailbag and subscribe while you're there. Matt and I back tomorrow right here, Peacock and Williamson.